It is so good to be with you guys. The last time we saw you, since then, it's been an absolute whirlwind. Packing the house, getting everything ready, getting down here, unpacking the house. It's just, if we never see another box, I think we will be set for life. But one thing that I learned a couple of things on this move down here. If you move with a cat, she hates it. She really hates it. And she'll disappear for like 2 days and you'll think you lost your cat. And then one day when you're out looking around, she'll pop out from underneath the sofa. So that's one thing I learned. Another thing I learned is not pronounced Grand Saline. Like the saline solution. Apparently it's not pronounced like that, so that's it. I learned that books are very heavy. And when you pack them into a tub that weighs about 300 pounds, it's really good to have some other people move those. I learned that when it rains, it pours. And so we picked the very best weekend to move here. We really, it was the very, very best week. We came from freezing, cold, snow, and ice to nonstop rain for 2 days. It was fantastic. Then the last thing I learned is that the people of First Baptist Van are the best people on. We love you guys so much. I would not even have enough time this morning to share just all of the blessings that you guys have been to us over the last couple of weeks, or last month, really. It's been incredible. You guys helped us move. Mark Good and Matthew Good came and drove the U-Haul. Let me tell you about people from First Baptist Van. We got into that U-Haul, and it was already loaded and everything, and they got in, and there was this really horrible, annoying beeping sound. And we didn't know where it was coming from. And it was just constant. And we tried to figure it out, and we couldn't figure it out, and so we called U-Haul, and they said, well, you'll have to unload the truck, and we'll give you a new one. And so we sat there, and Matthew said, I am all for not unloading this truck. So they decided to drive down here 10 hours with that beeping sound. And so I was up all night, and just got up and said, Lord, you are our maker, our creator, you know the ins and outs of that truck, please stop the beeping. And I just prayed and prayed and prayed, and they said they got about 10 minutes outside of town and the beeping stopped. So that was an answer to prayer. But that's the kind of people that you guys are, that you're willing to go to those lengths to help and make this transition so much easier. We are so grateful for everybody who made food for us, who helped us unload, helped us unpack. And you guys have just been fantastic. I love that my first Sunday with y'all is the first Sunday of the year. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us to stop and say, what are we looking forward to in 2019? What is it that we want God to do in our lives? What is it that we want to see happen in our community? What is it that we want to see happen in our church? And I could have gone in a lot of different directions with my sermon. I think there's probably quite a few churches teaching something like New Year, New You, something like that. Maybe churches talk about Bible reading. Let's read the Bible more this year. Let's pray more. Let's attend church more. Let's do these things more. But listen, I think this is what happens sometimes in our Christian lives. We feel like if we try harder, we'll be better Christians. If I read my Bible more, then God will be happier with me. If I pray more, then I'll have a deeper relationship with the Lord. The problem is, those kind of things, if we rely on doing, trying harder, getting better, and being more motivated, being more disciplined, we're missing the point, because those things are fruit of a thriving relationship with Jesus. And so when we stop, instead of saying, this year let's read the Bible more, instead let's say, this year I want to develop a deeper relationship with Jesus. And you know what happens when we do develop that deeper relationship with Jesus? We'll read the Bible more, and we'll pray, and we'll attend church, and we'll give, and we'll witness. It's a byproduct of that thriving relationship with Jesus. So that's what we're going to talk about over the next few weeks. We're going to talk through a series called Greater Than. Greater Than. Jesus is greater than. Say it to me, church. Jesus is greater than.
Jesus is greater than.
Good, I'm just getting us warmed up, right? Jesus is greater than. Perfect. What is he greater than? Everything. Good. Wow, you guys are great. All right. There's these moments when I ask questions, and I'm really hoping somebody says something, because there's those awkward silences. I know he's greater than something. I just can't think of it on the spot. But we're going to look through the fact that he's greater than the things that hold us back. He's greater than the skeletons in our closet. He's greater than the past mistakes that we've made. He's greater than our pain that we're dealing with right now. He's greater than anything that we struggle with, than anything that we deal with. We're going to see it in one of the best chapters in Scripture, Matthew chapter 8. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds here, a couple of minutes, however long it takes, to get to Matthew chapter 8. You find Matthew chapter 8. I'll get this thing going. You see, we can do all the good things that a Christian is supposed to do. I can read my Bible. Micah and I, we're going to sit down, we're going to read our Bible. And we're going to do it, we're going to read it so fast, we're going to read it in a month, we're going to do these things. I'm just using you as an example. So we're going to do this, but if this Bible reading is outside of a thriving relationship with Jesus, then all we're doing is filling our heads with knowledge. I can decide to pray more. I can decide to get up and pray at 6 a.m. I can decide to pray again at 9 a.m. and 12, and I can do these things, but if it's outside of a thriving relationship with Jesus, then you're just saying words. I can decide I'm not going to miss church. I'm going to be in church 52 times this year. I promise I'm going to do it, right? But if that's outside of a thriving relationship with Jesus, then you're just sitting in a place and it's just become routine. All these things have to be grounded in this relationship with Jesus that grows more and more each day. So we're going to see in Matthew chapter 8. My goal is for us to realize that no resolution, no habit, no positive message on self-esteem is going to transform our lives more than just purposefully, willingly, and obediently setting our eyes on Jesus. Just stopping and saying, Jesus, it's this year, 2019 is for you. So let's look at Matthew chapter 8. We're going to, over the next 6 weeks, look at the whole chapter. But today, I just want to see the first 4 verses. If you've got Matthew chapter 8 in hand, why don't you say amen?
Amen.
All right, stand with me. Give honor to God's word. Matthew chapter 8, we're going to read verses 1, 2, 3, and 4. It says, when he came down from the mountain. We pause real quick. I know you're standing, but let's pause right here. What was he doing on the mountain? He did pray, but there was one specific thing he did. He was teaching the Sermon on the Mount, right? Why is it called the Sermon on the Mount? It was on the mountain. This is not a trick question. Okay. So he had spent chapters 5, 6, and 7 giving them life-shaking, world-bending truth. And he's teaching them. Now he's going to come down from the mountain in chapter 8, and he's going to back up his message showing his power. So chapter 8 is just going to be full of miracles. He's going to show who he is as the powerful Son of God. So it says, when he came down from the mountain, large crowds followed him. And right away, a man with leprosy came and knelt before him, saying, Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean. And reaching out his hand, Jesus touched him, saying, I am willing, be made clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus told him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them. We pray as we dive into this morning. Heavenly Father, I thank you for everybody here. Lord, I may not know their names yet, but you have blessed my family in the extreme, leading us here. And I'm so very grateful. And I pray that every time I preach, every time that I open God's Word to study, and to lift it up together, I pray that Jesus would be the central focus of what I say. I pray that Jesus would be the central focus of our decisions, of our attitudes, of our reactions when things don't go our way. I pray that we would see Jesus. And I pray that we would consistently remember that you are greater. You're greater than the minor hiccups that come into our lives. You're greater even than the trials that besiege us and beset us. You are greater, and we lift you up in this moment. We give you praise and you honor and you glory because you are worthy of everything that we can give you, Lord. May every breath we take be a breath of praise and worship to you. We ask you to illuminate your word today. Get me out of the way, Lord. Push me out of the way. And I want you to speak so clearly to us today so that we know looking forward in 2019 that everything can be different because you can change and you can do miracles. You're still a God who works miracles and changes lives and rebuilds broken families. Whatever somebody's struggling with in this room today, Lord, be their encouragement, be their peace, give them hope. Help us, Lord, to set our eyes on you and not look away. In your name. All right, you can see this. I want to talk today about the fact that Jesus is greater than our past. Jesus is greater than our past. Has anybody ever done something or said something that you immediately regret? Not you guys, right? No, you don't ever make mistakes, right? None of us, we're perfect, right? But have you ever said something and as soon as you said it, you're just like, oh, I wish I could pull those words back in and pull them in. Now, I don't know about you. My wife and I never argue, never fight. This is perfect relationship here. But every once in a while, I say something that I immediately wish I hadn't said. Husbands, are you nodding along with me? Are you in agreement? Your wives are like, he does do those things, right? But there's these moments that we wish, I wish I could just press rewind on that situation. I wish I could just go backwards. I wish I could not make that mistake again. I wish I could not get myself involved in that again. And some things it's little. Sometimes we look around and say, well, I wish I wouldn't have Mexican food for breakfast. Right? That's really gonna kind of chart my course for the rest of the day. But then there's other decisions that we make that are major decisions that we look back on and just regret. I know people have said, I wish I hadn't taken that job. I wish I wouldn't have married that person. I wish I wouldn't have sold that car, right? That whatever car that you grew up with, whatever it is. There's these decisions that we make, these mistakes, these failures, whatever it is. And for some people, they're little things. For others, they're big things. But if we're not purposeful, and if we're not careful, those little things in our past can really dictate where we're going in the future. So we're going to meet a man in this story whose past was really just wrecked. It's just kind of a sad picture of what humanity is. And so I want to look at this. One time a man said to his friend, he came up to him and he said, man, you look depressed. What are you thinking about? And the man looked at him and said, my future. And so he said, first guy said, well, what is so bad about your future? What is making you so depressed? And he said, my past. Right? So we have these things, these skeletons in our closet sometimes that we look and say, I wish I could just get over that. Maybe somebody hurt you, and you just think, I could never forgive that person. Maybe something happened, and you just think, I could never forgive myself. Whatever it is, this man in the story, he's been haunted by his past over and over and over. His past, if you're looking at notes, number one, was marked by loneliness and disappointment. His past was marked by loneliness and disappointment. Let's read this first verse here in chapter 8. Because in the past, he couldn't be around large crowds. Let's look at this. When he came down from the mountain, when Jesus came down from the mountain, large crowds followed him. So this guy had leprosy. This was kind of a catch-all term for gross skin diseases. If you had anything oozing or pus-related things, this was what they were talking about. So this guy, he couldn't be around large crowds because he couldn't chance risking infecting healthy people with his disease. So anytime he saw large crowds, he had to stand away from them. He was living in a place outside the city. He couldn't be around people. He had to live in isolation and loneliness. Church, isn't it sad today? In 2019, we are more connected than we have ever been in the history of humanity. But we are more lonely than we have ever been in the history of humanity. Isn't it crazy for so many people you can be in a crowd this size and be sitting here and feel lonely, and feel isolated, and feel disconnected? There's millions of people struggling with this idea, I can't connect with people. And for this guy, it was his disease that caused it, but for us, it could be a lot of things. You know people that should be sitting in this room right now, don't you? Mm-hmm. You know someone's missing from this room. I see some empty spaces. There's somebody missing from this room. And maybe it was because somebody got hurt in church and then they think, I just can't go back to that place. I just can't. I can't deal with those things again. How about this? Did you grow up in a dysfunctional home? Or a home with some issues? Or none of you, right? We're all perfect. Sometimes when we get back together with family around the holidays or something, you ever just think, oh my goodness, if I could just not deal with those things right now. The things that happened in our past a lot of times cause us to create emotional distance from people. Somebody hurt me, so I'm going to keep everybody at a distance. Maybe you were hurt in a relationship, and now you can't trust people. Maybe you were hurt in church, and now you just can't seem to connect in the way that you need to. Right? Sometimes the idea of being around a large crowd just doesn't really do it for you. And we understand sometimes this guy's isolation and loneliness. So in the past, he couldn't be around large crowds. Second thing is, in the past, he couldn't approach or touch anyone. Think through this. Look at verse 2. Right away, a man with leprosy came and knelt before Jesus, saying, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. And reaching out his hand, Jesus, what? Touched him, saying, I am willing, be made clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. According to Jewish law and according to Jewish custom, this guy, he had just made himself an outlaw. Because he couldn't approach people. He couldn't do this. He couldn't come up to a person. This make you uncomfortable? Okay, well, maybe a little uncomfortable. But he couldn't do this. This guy was bound by Jewish custom and Jewish law to stand away from people. If he saw people approaching, he had to turn his head, he had to cover his mouth, and he had to say, unclean! Unclean! Why? Because he had to tell people, I'm not fit company. You can't be around me. You can catch what I have. I'm not allowed to be around you. So just approaching Jesus like he did was a violation of the law. In the past, he couldn't approach or touch anyone. Think about this. Husbands, he couldn't hold his wife. He couldn't touch her. He couldn't come close to her. He couldn't kiss her. He couldn't hug his kids. And I know you all are probably too old to want to be hugged by your parents, but your parents will forever not hug you. This guy couldn't do it. He couldn't look a guy in the eyes and give him a firm handshake. He couldn't be around people. His whole life was loneliness and isolation. Aren't you glad you came to church this morning? Isn't this so encouraging? Isn't this story I just feel like I'm getting a good hug from Pastor Mark today? It'll get better, I promise, because when he meets Jesus, everything changes. But in the past, he couldn't be around large crowds. In the past, he could not touch or approach anyone. And then in the past, the priest would always declare him unclean. Look at verse 4 with me. And Jesus told him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest and offer the gift. Show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them. Why would he have to show himself to the priest? Right? If you look back in your Bibles, you don't have to look there now, but in Leviticus chapter 13, there's this really gross chapter about skin diseases. If you want to read it on your own time, I encourage you to do that on your own time. But so the law prescribed these regulations and commands about a person who had any kind of serious infectious skin disease. And so what they had to do every week was to go before the priest like a doctor's visit. You had to do the whole thing. He examined you, and if your infectious skin disease was not getting better, or if it was spreading, or if it was getting worse, or if it looked like it was getting deeper in your skin, the priest would utter one word to you and make you leave. And that word was unclean. We find the word unclean 22 times in Leviticus chapter 13. Let me read you just a piece of that. It says, the man is afflicted with a serious skin disease. He is unclean. The priest must pronounce him unclean. The person who has a case of a serious skin disease is to have his clothes torn and his hair hanging loose. He must cover his mouth and cry out, unclean, unclean. He will remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He must live alone in a place outside of him. What a miserable life for him. He's got to live apart from people. He's isolated. He's lonely. He's forgotten. He's an outcast. Every time somebody comes by, he's got to say unclean. This guy had shown himself to the priest hundreds of times. Hundreds of times he had gone, hoping maybe today's the day. Keaton, maybe today I won't be unclean. And then the priest had always said that word. Unclean. Not today. You're still messed up. You're still diseased. You're still afflicted. And what's crazy for us today as a church, you got to get this. I think it's really cool that this was located in the law of Moses. Because that is all the law can do for us. Call us unclean. And that's what the law does. When we read the law, all it says is you are spiritually unclean. You cannot come before a holy God because you are spiritually unclean. There has to be something that stands between you and God before you can come into the presence of God. In the law, what was it? Sacrifice. So the blood of an animal was what stood in the gap between us. And it's the same thing for us today. So if you just read the Old Testament, we're missing a huge, the only part really that matters in the whole is because the Old Testament just points to us that we're unclean. That we can scrub our skin, but we can't remove the stain of sin in our hearts. And what it does is it points us to something better. Better than a sacrifice, better than the blood of an animal, right? It's pointing us to something better. And so, this guy, let's talk about his past. In the past, he couldn't be around large crowds. He couldn't touch or approach anyone. And the priest would always declare him. If the story ended there, what would you really say? You go home saying, oh, what do we get into with this pastor? Well, listen, this man was poor. He was an outcast. He was wretched. His life was dictated and dominated by his past. He couldn't get past it. Right? He couldn't be around large crowds. He couldn't touch anyone. The priest would always declare him unclean. This morning, I don't know what is in your past that you're struggling with. But I know we're struggling with something. It's a relationship that went sour. It's a mistake we made, an investment that we're not belly up. Whatever it is, I know we're struggling with something in our past that this morning we need to let go. I don't know about your past, but I know this. When this leper met Jesus, everything changed. Everything changed. Let's read this passage with new eyes. Because Jesus was greater than his past. Jesus was greater than his past. The first verse says, when he came down from the mountain, large crowds followed him. When Jesus is greater than your past, he invites you into fellowship with other believers. He invites you into fellowship with other believers. Are you glad you're a part of First Baptist Band today?
Amen.
Come on, be excited. Are you glad you're part of First Baptist Band today?
Amen.
All right, Mindy and I are going to join the church today. We're actually technically not members yet, but we will join the church today. But we are so excited about this privilege and this opportunity to be joined together because this is what God designed. The book of Ephesians chapter 1 says that the church is God's masterpiece. It's what he designed from ages past, right? So we look, sometimes people have come up to me and they've said, I can worship God just the same on my fishing boat as I can in the pew on Sunday morning. Let me tell you something, church. It's not about worship. It's partly about fellowship. God designed you to be where you are right now, to be a part of an interconnecting puzzle, right? We're part of a family that worships together, that prays together, that struggles together, that experiences victory together. But the key word is together. You can't be together as a church family on a fishing boat. That'd be a large boat, right? So don't buy into the lie that you don't need the church for spiritual growth. We do. We desperately need the church. I need you this morning. And you need me, not just as your pastor, but as a fellow church member. We need each other to grow, to be encouraged, to make it through the storms in this life. And so when Jesus healed this guy, he was drawing him into a larger fellowship. He was saying, you're no longer isolated. You're no longer lonely. I'm pulling you into a group that will extend into all four corners of this world. So he draws us into fellowship with other believers. J. Vernon McGee said this, and I love this. There is a brotherhood within the body of believers, and the Lord Jesus Christ is the common denominator. Friendship and fellowship are the legal tender among believers. I encourage you this morning, if you are not part of a Sunday school class, get plugged into one of those classes. I tell you, I so enjoyed, Paul's back there, he was our teacher this morning, but man, I so enjoyed just gathering together with other people and opening God's Word together. It's powerful. It's powerful in a way that a sermon on Sunday morning can't achieve, right? Because I love preaching to you, but more, I want you guys to open your Bibles together as a community. So if you haven't connected to a Sunday school class, I'd encourage you to do that. So we see this, that Jesus, because he was greater than this guy's past, he drew him into a larger fellowship. Then the second thing, because Jesus was greater than his past, he invites us into deeper intimacy with than we've ever known. He invites us into deeper intimacy than we've ever known. In the past, what's one thing that this guy couldn't do? I hear a lot of voices. Somebody say it loud. Yeah, he couldn't be around large crowds. He could not worship. He couldn't go to the temple. He couldn't be around people. He couldn't touch anyone. So what does Jesus do? He shows his power over this guy's past. In verse 3, it says, reaching out his hand, Jesus, what? Kind of went over his head, kind of gave him a hair tousle, kind of said, okay, you stay there. I'm gonna be over here. We need a little bit of bubble. How many of you guys have a personal bubble? Right? Is there a personal bubble? How big is your personal bubble? Is it like arm's length? Like, don't come this much closer. Have you ever met a close talker? A guy that just comes inside that bubble and wants to talk to you right there, and you say, okay, I feel your spit on my face, right? It's too close, right? But this guy, he had never been that, he had never even had the privilege of telling somebody that you're too close, right? He craved this. He fell before Jesus' feet because he had nothing else to lose, and instead of saying, hey, dude, you're gross, you've got leprosy, you got something wrong with you. Instead of that, he went up to him and it says he touched him. You know what Jesus did when he touched him? He made himself ceremonially unclean. He touched this guy, and by the law, by the standards of the law, now he had to go outside the city and be away from people. He had made himself ceremonially unclean. But what does it say about the man that he touched? Somebody read it out. Immediately, his leprosy was cleansed. So Jesus miraculously touches this guy. He receives the guy's uncleanness. And he becomes ceremonially unclean. And the guy becomes clean. This is what's insane about this passage. But this is what Jesus does for every person who comes to him in faith, saying, Lord, I want you to be Lord of my life. Jesus, please save me. He said, let me read a couple of verses for you here. It says in Isaiah 53, he himself bore our sicknesses, and he carried our pains. And then Galatians 3 says, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. So Jesus, he invited this guy into a deeper intimacy than he had ever known. He says, I am willing to touch you. I'm willing to go into the depths of your sin and your disease and your shame so that you can be free. Church, he offers this to you today. If you're sitting here today and you say, I don't know, I'm playing a church game, I've been coming to church for a long time, but it's not made it real in my heart. This is what Jesus invites you into. He says, I'll take your ugliness, your disease, your sin, I'll take the worst of you and I'll give you the best of me. There's an old Bill Gaither song that says these words, shackled by a heavy burden, beneath a load of guilt and shame. Then the hand of Jesus touched me. And now I am no longer the same. He touched me. Oh, he touched me. And oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened. And now I know he touched me and he made me whole. This is what this leper could have been singing. If Bill Gaither had been around 2,000 years ago, he would have been leaping up saying, he touched me and he made me whole. He changed everything about me. And I love how Jesus tells him, don't tell anybody about it. You think he obeyed that command of Jesus? He sure did not. If you look in the book of Mark, you see the same passage, and he just goes and starts telling everybody. He says he made him famous in that area. But Jesus, this is what he does. He invites us into something deeper. You say, I've been hurt in a relationship, and I don't think I can deal with another one. And Jesus says, I'll bring you deeper, and I'll show you more intimacy than any person could. I'll satisfy you when no person ever could. I'll give you more joy than a person. No person ever could, right? He invites us into a saving relationship. So also in the past, this guy, the priest would always declare him unclean. But now look at this. As our high priest, Jesus declares us free. This in verse 4. Jesus told him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them. So, before he would go to the priest, and what would the priest declare him? Unclean. He would say unclean. So now Jesus knows this guy is clean, and so he says, take with you the offering that Moses commanded. If you go from the grossest chapter in the Bible, Leviticus chapter 13, into one of the best chapters in the Bible, Leviticus chapter 14, it tells the prescription or the command, the regulation of how a person who was cleansed from a skin disease, what they had to do. They had to bring 2 birds. And I really, really wanted to bring 2 birds with me today, but I couldn't catch any in my backyard. 2 birds. He would take 2 birds. One of them they would sacrifice. They would spill its blood. They would take that blood. I'm going to come down to you guys. They would take that blood and they would sprinkle it on the person. Then they would apply the blood. They would take a little bit. They would put it on their earlobes, their thumbs, and their big toes. I don't know why they chose those specific areas, but they would have to do that. That meant that this person was cleansed, not just physically, but ceremonially. Now you're cleansed. Then they would take the other bird who's still alive, and they would release it to fly free into the wild. I love this because this is what this is a picture for us of what Christ was about to accomplish for his people. Right? Christ came and he was sacrificed and he shed his blood for the sins of mankind, but the grave couldn't hold him, death couldn't keep him, and so he flew free in the resurrection, just like that other bird in the story. And so the main thing about this story, though, this guy, they don't tell it, but we know it. He went to the priest, and the priest had to personally apply the blood. Now today we're like, that's super gross. But we know back then that this was something that was ceremonial. It would have been something really deep and meaningful. So we know that this guy was ceremonially clean. And I got to tell you this today, wherever you are. I don't know how long you've been in church. I don't know what your past is. But unless you personally apply the blood of Jesus to your heart and soul, you're not cleansed yet. Right? There's a lot of people, I think, who say, well, I go to church, so I'm a Christian. Or they say, I'm part of a Sunday school class, so I am a Christian. I was baptized as a kid. That must mean I'm a Christian, right? Right, church? No. I'm glad. There you go. You got it right there. No, those things are temporary works. They're just external things. Jesus wants to take the sacrifice that he made for you and personally apply it to your life. And how do you do that? You come to him just like that leper with nothing else to lose. You kneel before him and say, Jesus, if you're willing, will you save me? If you're willing, will you make me clean? And you know what Jesus says every single time? Hold on, I got some other people I need to work with first. No, he says, I am willing. He's always willing. He says, come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you